She handed him a small glass filled with liquid and watched him drink it down in one swallow. Within hours, her husband of 9 years would be dead, his body containing 5 times the lethal dose of poison. But this wasn't her first attempt. She had tried once before, on Valentine's Day, when he looked at her across the dinner table and said the words that should have changed everything. "I think you're trying to kill me." He was right. And she was just getting started. Welcome to Silent Witness True Crime Stories. Thanks to all my viewers and subscribers for your support. Stay tuned for daily true crime updates. Don't forget to subscribe and also download your free ebook by clicking the link in the pinned comment. Real estate agent with 3 young boys and a husband whose stone masonry business brought in hundreds of thousands annually. Madison posted happy family photos and spoke lovingly about Daniel. But behind the smiling images, Madison was drowning in debt. In 2019, she convinced Daniel to let her flip houses for profit. He was hesitant but wanted to support her dreams. Madison promised she knew what she was doing. But within a year, she owed hard money lenders over $1.8 million. Properties sat unsold, creditors were calling, lawsuits were filed. She hid everything behind lies and forged documents, signing Daniel's name on loans he never approved. In October 2020, Daniel accidentally discovered the truth. He found loan applications with his forged signature and debts that made him sick. The confrontation was explosive. Daniel was devastated by the betrayal and immediately scheduled a meeting with a divorce attorney. At that attorney meeting, Daniel learned something crucial about their prenuptial agreement. If they divorced, Madison would get almost nothing. But if Daniel died while they were still married, Madison would inherit everything: the business, the life insurance, all of it. Over $1 million. Madison knew Daniel was planning to divorce her. She knew it would destroy her financially. Every option ended in disaster unless Daniel was dead. So, Madison began planning murder. In January 2022, she forged Daniel's signature on a new life insurance policy for $100,000, timed to become active just before Valentine's Day. Then she found Rosa, a housekeeper willing to supply fentanyl pills for cash. In early February, Rosa delivered dozens of pills, warning they were extremely dangerous. Madison paid in cash and told Rosa she might need more later. Think about that for a moment. How desperate would you have to be to choose murder over honesty? What would you do if you discovered someone you loved was drowning in debt this deep? Valentine's Day 2022 was a Monday. Madison suggested a nice lunch together, despite their problems. Daniel agreed reluctantly. Madison drove to their favorite deli and ordered Daniel's usual turkey sandwich. In the parking lot, she crushed 2 fentanyl pills and mixed the powder throughout the sandwich, rewrapping it carefully. At home, she plated everything as if this were just another ordinary meal. Daniel sat down and took one bite. Madison watched him chew and swallow, her heart racing. But almost immediately, Daniel's face flushed red. Within minutes, hives erupted across his chest and arms. He stumbled to the bathroom, telling Madison something was very wrong. Daniel injected himself with their son's EpiPen and chugged an entire bottle of Benadryl, desperate to stop the reaction. He survived, but he knew something was deeply wrong. That afternoon, Daniel called his best friend Marcus, his voice shaking. "I think Madison tried to poison me." Marcus was stunned and urged him to go to police immediately. But Daniel hesitated. He had no proof, just a bizarre allergic reaction. If he accused Madison and was wrong, it would hurt his boys and complicate the divorce. He decided to wait and be more careful. It was the decision that would cost him his life. The next day, February 15th, Madison sent a text to a man she had been secretly seeing. If he could just go away, life would be so perfect. 2 weeks later, on March 1st, she texted again. "Life is going to be different. I promise. Hang in there until Friday." Madison had learned from her Valentine's Day failure. One bite of food wasn't enough because the dose was too small and Daniel's body reacted before he ingested it all. This time she needed a delivery method where Daniel would consume the full fatal dose in one moment. She contacted Rosa again, claiming the pills weren't strong enough. Rosa delivered even more potent fentanyl, enough to kill several people. Madison was counting down to murder, and Daniel had no idea the clock was ticking. How would you feel if you suspected your spouse was trying to kill you? Would you have gone to police? Or would you have hoped you were wrong like Daniel did? Friday, March 3rd, 2022, seemed like any other day. Daniel worked, the boys went to school, Madison showed houses. Dinner was simple spaghetti. Daniel helped put the boys to bed, reading stories and kissing their foreheads. By 9 o'clock, all 3 children were asleep. Madison suggested they have a drink to unwind. Daniel was surprised, but agreed. She poured whiskey for him, but suggested they start with a shot to take the edge off the week. She had prepared lemon shots, vodka mixed with fresh lemon juice in small glasses, strong and tart, meant to be thrown back quickly in one gulp. Madison handed Daniel his glass. They clinked glasses together. Madison barely sipped hers, but Daniel threw his back in one smooth motion, exactly as she had planned. The shot contained fentanyl dissolved throughout the liquid, enough to kill 3 or 4 people, carefully measured to ensure there would be no survival this time. Daniel grimaced at the unexpected bitter taste, but attributed it to cheap vodka. They talked briefly about nothing important while Madison's pulse raced. Within 20 minutes, Daniel felt dizzy and nauseated. Madison suggested he lie down. Daniel collapsed onto their bed, fully clothed. Madison sat in a chair nearby, waiting and watching. The fentanyl worked quickly and efficiently. Daniel's breathing became shallow and labored, his skin turned gray, and his body began shutting down system by system. Madison sat there listening to her husband die, occasionally checking her phone for the time. She needed to wait long enough to ensure he was dead, but not so long it would seem suspicious when she finally called for help. Around midnight, Madison shook Daniel roughly, already knowing he wouldn't respond. She screamed his name, performing for the 911 recording she was about to make. She called emergency services with a panicked voice, gasping that her husband wasn't breathing. She didn't know what happened. They had been relaxing together, and he said he felt sick, and now he won't wake up. The dispatcher walked her through CPR instructions. Madison went through the motions half-heartedly, knowing it was far too late to save him. Paramedics arrived within 8 minutes, but Daniel Hart was already gone. He was 39 years old, the father of 3 young boys, and he had just been murdered by his wife. At the hospital, doctors suspected a heart attack. Daniel was young, but these things happened. Standard toxicology tests don't catch fentanyl unless you specifically test for it. Madison played her part perfectly, sobbing in the corridor, calling Daniel's mother with devastating news, holding her confused sons and telling them Daddy went to heaven. Friends rushed to bring food and offer help with the children. No one suspected the grieving widow had just committed murder, or so she thought. Madison transformed into the perfect grieving widow. She planned a beautiful funeral with hundreds of attendees, accepting condolences in a black dress with tears streaming down her face. She posted heartfelt tributes on social media about Daniel's kindness and how sudden his death was, receiving thousands of sympathetic comments. Behind the scenes, she filed insurance claims totaling $1.35 million, paid off her crushing debts, bought a new luxury SUV, and planned house renovations. But Madison wanted more than just money. She wanted attention and sympathy. In summer 2022, she wrote a children's book called Are You With Me?, about a boy whose father dies suddenly and how he learns to cope with grief. She self-published it and began promoting it aggressively, framing herself as a grieving mother, channeling pain into helping others. In April 2023, 1 month before her arrest, Madison appeared on local television promoting the book. She told the host about finding Daniel unresponsive, how unexpected it was, how doctors said it was his heart. She signed copies and accepted compliments on her strength and bravery. What the host didn't know was that investigators had been quietly building a murder case for months, and Madison's perfect facade was about to crumble completely. The investigation began with Daniel's mother, Catherine, who felt something was wrong from the moment she heard about her son's death. Daniel had been healthy, with no heart problems. The suddenness felt impossible. After the funeral, Catherine called Daniel's friends, trying to understand his final months. That's when Marcus finally told her about the phone call, about Daniel saying, "I think Madison tried to poison me on Valentine's Day." Catherine immediately contacted police, demanding a thorough investigation. The detective was initially skeptical, but the insurance situation raised red flags. Multiple policies, recently updated, over $1 million total. The detective requested specialized toxicology screening, and that's when everything changed. The medical examiner discovered Daniel hadn't died of natural causes at all. His blood contained fentanyl at 5 times the lethal dose. The fentanyl was illicit, street grade, not medical. This was murder, and Madison Hart was the obvious suspect. Detectives obtained warrants for Madison's phone, bank accounts, and electronic devices. They found approximately 30 deleted text messages to a phone number registered to Rosa Mendez, sent in the weeks before Valentine's Day and again before Daniel's death. They tracked down Rosa and confronted her. When threatened with accessory to murder charges and decades in prison, Rosa broke down and confessed everything. She admitted supplying Madison with fentanyl on 2 separate occasions, first in early February and again in late February. Rosa claimed Madison said the drugs were for a dying relative, but the money Madison offered was too good to refuse. Cell tower data placed Madison's phone near Rosa's location on both exchange dates. Financial records showed matching cash withdrawals from Madison's account. The pieces were falling into place. Investigators discovered the forged insurance application filed just weeks before Valentine's Day. The policy became active February 4th, exactly 10 days before the first poisoning attempt. They found the prenuptial agreement showing Madison's overwhelming financial motive. Divorce meant she got almost nothing, but death meant she got everything. The most damning evidence came from Madison's own laptop. In a draft post about her grief book, Madison had written details about giving Daniel a shot of alcohol and waiting for him to throw it back all at once. These details perfectly matched Rosa's testimony about Madison wanting a delivery method for immediate full ingestion. After the Valentine's Day sandwich failed because Daniel only took 1 bite, Madison realized she needed him to consume the poison instantly in 1 moment. The lemon shot was the perfect solution, strong enough to mask any bitter taste, consumed in a single swallow. Madison's text messages to her secret boyfriend sealed her fate. The February 15th message wishing Daniel would just go away was sent less than 24 hours after the first murder attempt. The March 1st message promising life would be different by Friday was sent just 2 days before Daniel died. These weren't vague frustrations from an unhappy wife. They were a killer literally counting down to murder. On May 9th, 2023, exactly 14 months after Daniel's death, police arrested Madison Hart at her home while her sons were at school. The charges were devastating: aggravated murder, attempted murder, distribution of controlled substances, insurance fraud, and forgery. Madison's arrest shocked everyone who knew her. The grieving widow, who wrote a heartwarming children's book about loss, was actually the murderer who created that loss for her own sons. The story made national headlines. Her social media posts were analyzed for hidden clues everyone had missed. The book became the most chilling piece of evidence, proof that Madison had murdered Daniel and then profited from his death both emotionally and financially. Madison was denied bail and taken to jail. Her 3 sons, ages 7, 9, and 11, were placed with their grandmother, Catherine. The boys lost their father to murder and their mother to prison in one devastating blow. How do you explain to children that their mother killed their father for insurance money? How do they ever trust anyone again? Madison released an audio statement from jail claiming she was being framed, that she loved Daniel and would never hurt him. But her words felt hollow, just another performance from someone who had been performing her entire marriage. Rosa Mendez agreed to testify against Madison in exchange for reduced charges, pleading guilty to drug distribution and receiving 5 years instead of potential life for accessory to murder. The secret boyfriend also agreed to testify, devastated to learn he had been unknowingly involved with a married woman plotting murder. The preliminary hearing in August 2024 laid out the prosecution's overwhelming case. They presented the timeline of insurance fraud, the pattern of deleted messages to the drug dealer, cell tower data, the forged signatures, the crushing debt, and the text messages revealing Madison's desire for Daniel to disappear. A financial expert testified how Daniel's death instantly solved all of Madison's problems. A toxicology expert explained the massive fentanyl dose could only have been deliberately administered. The defense tried arguing there was no physical evidence directly linking Madison to the fentanyl that night. No pills were found in the house. No witnesses saw her put anything in Daniel's drink. They claimed other suspects could have had access to Daniel, though they couldn't name anyone. They argued the texts to her boyfriend were taken out of context, but their arguments crumbled against the mountain of circumstantial evidence. The judge ruled prosecutors had shown probable cause for all 11 charges. Madison Hart would stand trial. Daniel's mother, Catherine, filed a wrongful death lawsuit to ensure Madison would never see $1 of the insurance money, citing laws that prohibit murderers from profiting from their crimes. Catherine also established a trust fund for the boys, using money from Daniel's business, ensuring they would be provided for no matter what. She gave interviews about her son's life, his love for his children, his dedication to honest work. She refused to let Madison's evil define Daniel's legacy. Daniel's friends created a scholarship fund in his name for trade school students, wanting his legacy to be about building and creating, not about how he died. The children's book has been pulled from sale and is now a disturbing collector's item. It was meant to comfort grieving children but was written by a woman who deliberately made her own children orphans for money. Think about how Madison fooled everyone. Her friends, her family, her neighbors, even television hosts who interviewed her. She stood at her husband's funeral, crying tears everyone believed were real. She wrote a book about grief, while knowing she deliberately created that grief. How does someone become that person? Are they born incapable of empathy, or does desperation twist something inside them until murder seems rational? Madison Hart awaits trial in April 2025. Prosecutors will argue for life in prison without parole. Legal experts predict a guilty verdict given the overwhelming evidence. Madison faces spending the rest of her life behind bars, her sons growing up without her, her name forever associated with greed and cold-blooded murder, all because she chose poison over honesty, chose money over her children's father, chose murder over facing the consequences of her financial mistakes. The case reminds us that trust is precious and betrayal is devastating. It shows that financial desperation can lead people to unthinkable acts, and it proves that even the most carefully constructed lies eventually unravel when investigators refuse to accept the obvious explanation. Daniel Hart deserved better. His sons deserved better. They deserved a mother who would face problems honestly instead of choosing murder. What's your take on this case? Do you think Madison planned to kill Daniel from the beginning, or did desperation gradually twist her into a killer? Could you ever forgive someone who did this to your family? And what kind of person writes a children's book about grief after deliberately causing it? Let us know in the comments. We want to hear how this story made you feel. If you found this case as shocking as we did, click that subscribe button so you never miss our investigations into cases that challenge everything we think we know about human nature. Because sometimes the real horror isn't in the dark, it's in the smiling face of someone you thought you could trust. Until next time, stay safe and remember, not everyone who says they love you actually means it.